The newsroom fell silent when Sebastian Keller walked through the security doors for the first time in 3 years, and Kylie Thompson felt her blood run cold watching him stride past her desk, like he owned the building, which technically he almost did after his latest acquisition spree. She had followed his career from a distance, the way you might track a hurricane forming over warm waters, knowing eventually it would make landfall somewhere and destroy everything in its path. Sebastian Keller, the enfant terrible of private equity, the man who had gutted companies and left thousands jobless, the billionaire who made Gordon Gekko look like a charity volunteer, was now the majority shareholder of Chronicle Media Group. And from the looks on everyone's faces, they all knew what that meant. Kylie gripped her coffee mug tighter, the ceramic warm against her palms as she watched him disappear into the elevator with the editorial board. She had been working at the Chronicle for 5 years, starting as a fact-checker and clawing her way up to senior investigative reporter. This newspaper meant everything to her. It had given her a purpose after her father died, after she had dropped out of grad school to help her mother keep their house, after everything fell apart. The Chronicle did real journalism, the kind that held powerful people accountable, that changed laws and exposed corruption. And now Sebastian Keller owned 49% of it, with an option to buy the remaining shares in 18 months. Did you see him? Marcus from sports sidled up to her desk, his usually jovial face drawn tight. That's the guy who destroyed Pemberton Industries. My cousin lost his pension because of that takeover. Kylie nodded, unable to find words. She had written a piece about the Pemberton collapse 2 years ago, detailing how Keller's firm had leveraged the company to death, selling off its assets and leaving the workers with nothing. The article had won her an award. She wondered if Sebastian Keller knew her name, if he had read what she wrote about him. The thought made her stomach twist. The editorial meeting lasted 3 hours. When people finally emerged, they looked shell-shocked. Kylie watched as her editor, Patricia Reynolds, walked straight to her office and closed the door. Through the glass walls, Kylie could see Patricia sitting at her desk with her head in her hands. All hands meeting in 20 minutes, someone announced, and the newsroom erupted in anxious chatter. Kylie spent those 20 minutes researching everything she could find about Sebastian Keller's recent activities. She expected to find more of the same, more corporate raids and hostile takeovers, but what she discovered made her pause. Over the past 18 months, something had shifted. Keller Capital had stopped acquiring struggling companies to strip them for parts. Instead, they had started investing in sustainability projects, worker-owned cooperatives, and educational programs. One article from a business journal noted that Keller had personally apologized to former Pemberton employees at a town hall in Ohio, though details were scarce. It made no sense. People like Sebastian Keller did not change. They did not suddenly develop a conscience. Kylie saved the articles to read later, suspicion coiling in her chest like a snake. The all-hands meeting took place in the main conference room, packed so tightly that people lined the walls. Kylie stood near the back, arms crossed. When Sebastian Keller entered with Patricia and the editorial board, the room went dead quiet. Up close, he looked different than his photos. Older, maybe, though he could not have been more than 35. He had the kind of face that photographs well, all sharp angles and strong features, dark hair that was slightly too long like he had forgotten to get it cut. He wore an expensive suit but no tie, and there was something in his eyes that Kylie could not quite read. Wariness, maybe, or exhaustion. "I know what you are all thinking," Sebastian said, his voice carrying easily through the room. He did not bother with pleasantries or introductions. "You are thinking that I am here to gut this place, fire half of you, and turn the Chronicle into a mouthpiece for whatever serves my interests. You have every reason to think that. It is what I would have done 3 years ago. The honesty caught Kylie off guard. She had expected corporate doublespeak, empty assurances. But I am not that person anymore, Sebastian continued. I spent the last 2 years trying to undo some of the damage I caused. I cannot bring back every job I destroyed or restore every pension I wiped out, but I am trying. I bought into the Chronicle because it does the kind of reporting that holds people like the old me accountable. I want to protect that, not destroy it. I want to fund it properly, give you the resources to do your jobs without worrying about layoffs or budget cuts. Someone in the crowd scoffed. Sebastian's jaw tightened, but he did not snap back. I do not expect you to trust me, he said. Trust has to be earned, and I have a lot to prove. What I am asking for is a chance. Judge me by my actions, not my reputation. If I break this promise, then you will have the story of the century to report, and I will not stop you. The meeting ended shortly after, with Patricia announcing that there would be no immediate changes to staffing or editorial direction. People dispersed slowly, talking in hushed voices. Kylie stayed where she was, watching as Sebastian shook hands with various department heads, his expression carefully neutral. When his eyes swept the room and landed on her, something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe. Then he looked away, and Kylie wondered if she had imagined it. Over the next 2 weeks, Sebastian Keller became a fixture in the Chronicle offices. He did not take an office or assert himself into the editorial process, but he was there, observing, asking questions, learning how the operation worked. Kylie watched him from a distance, noting the way he listened intently when people spoke, the way he remembered names and details. It felt calculated to her, like a performance designed to win people over. She was working late one evening, deep into an investigation about housing discrimination, when she looked up and found Sebastian standing by her desk. She jerked in surprise, nearly knocking over her water bottle. "Sorry," he said, holding up his hands. "Did not mean to startle you." "Mr. Keller." Kylie straightened in her chair, her heart hammering. "Can I help you, Sebastian, please?" He gestured to the empty chair beside her desk. "Mind if I sit?" She did mind, but she nodded anyway. Sebastian sat, and Kylie became acutely aware of how late it was, how empty the office had become. Just the cleaning crew and a few other reporters scattered across the floor. "I read your piece on Pemberton Industries," Sebastian said, getting straight to the point. "The one from 2 years ago." Kylie's mouth went dry, and it was accurate, brutally so. He leaned back in the chair, studying her. "You painted me as a monster who destroyed lives for profit. You were not wrong." "I reported the facts," Kylie said carefully. "You did." Sebastian was quiet for a moment. "I wanted you to know that piece was part of what changed things for me. I read it right after my father died. He was the one who built Keller Capital, who taught me how to be ruthless, how to see companies as numbers on a spreadsheet instead of people's livelihoods. When he died, I had to go through his things, and I found letters from people we had destroyed. Hundreds of them, people begging for help, for mercy, for anything. And I realized I had become exactly what he wanted me to be, and I hated it." Kylie did not know what to say. The raw honesty in his voice threw her off balance. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Sebastian met her eyes, and Kylie felt something shift in the air between them. "Because I think you are going to investigate me. You would be a bad reporter if you did not. And I would rather you hear the truth from me than build a narrative based on who I used to be." "Who you used to be?" Kylie could not keep the skepticism from her voice. "People do not just change overnight, especially not people like you. You are right. They do not." Sebastian stood, sliding his hands into his pockets. But they can change over time if they work at it. I am working at it every day." He left without another word, and Kylie sat there in the empty newsroom, her mind racing. Every instinct told her not to trust him, that this was manipulation, that Sebastian Keller had an angle she had not figured out yet. But there had been something in his eyes when he spoke about his father, a genuine pain that was hard to fake. She spent the next month digging into Sebastian's recent history, pulling every thread she could find. She interviewed former Keller Capital employees who had left the firm during the transition. She talked to workers at the company Sebastian had recently invested in. She followed the money through SEC filings and financial reports. And slowly, reluctantly, Kylie had to admit that Sebastian had been telling the truth. He had changed the entire direction of his firm, taken massive financial hits to make things right with people he had wronged, and genuinely seemed committed to operating differently. It did not make sense, but the evidence was there. During those weeks of investigation, Kylie found herself running into Sebastian more often. He would appear at her desk with questions about journalism, about how stories came together, about the ethical considerations reporters faced. The conversations were always brief but intense, and Kylie found herself looking forward to them despite her better judgment. Sebastian was whip-smart and surprisingly funny, with a self-deprecating humor about his past that felt genuine rather than performative. "So you are saying if I tried to kill a story you were working on, you would just ignore me?" Sebastian asked one afternoon, leaning against her desk with his arms crossed. "Absolutely," Kylie said. "That is literally what investigative journalism is for. Reporting the stories powerful people do not want reported, even if it destroyed the Chronicle. Even then, that is the job." Sebastian nodded slowly, something like admiration crossing his face. "Your father would be proud of you." Kylie froze. "How did you know about my father?" "I read your author bio. It mentions you dedicated your first investigative piece to him." Sebastian's expression softened. "I lost my father too. It changes you." "It does." Kylie felt an unexpected kinship, quickly followed by guilt. She should not be bonding with Sebastian Keller over dead fathers. She should not be bonding with him at all. But over the following weeks, bonding was exactly what happened. Sebastian started bringing coffee to the reporters who worked late, learning everyone's orders. He attended editorial meetings but never tried to influence content, only asked questions about process and standards. He funded a massive upgrade to the Chronicle's digital security after Kylie mentioned concerns about protecting sources. When the paper published a scathing investigation into one of Keller Capital's former partner firms, Sebastian personally congratulated the reporting team and did not interfere. Kylie watched all of this with increasing confusion. Her investigation had confirmed that Sebastian's transformation was real, but she still did not understand why. People did not flip their entire worldview because of one article and a family tragedy. There had to be something else, something she was missing. She got her answer on a cold November evening. Kylie was leaving the office late, as usual, when she found Sebastian sitting on the front steps of the Chronicle building, staring at nothing. He looked exhausted, his jacket discarded beside him, his shirt sleeves rolled up despite the chill. "You okay?" Kylie asked, stopping beside him. Sebastian glanced up, surprised. "Rough day. Want to talk about it?" He shook his head, then reconsidered. "Actually, yes, but not here." He stood, grabbing his jacket. "There is a diner 2 blocks away. Buy you dinner." Kylie knew she should say no. This was crossing a line from professional observation into something more personal. But there was something in Sebastian's face, a vulnerability she had not seen before, that made her nod. The diner was a classic 24-hour spot with cracked vinyl booths and fluorescent lighting. They slid into a corner booth, and Sebastian ordered coffee while Kylie asked for tea. When the waitress left, they sat in silence for a moment. "Today was the anniversary," Sebastian said finally. 3 years since my father died. 3 years since I started trying to be different." "That must be hard," Kylie said. "The hard part is not missing him," Sebastian admitted. "He was not a good person. He was not even a good father. But he was my father, and I spent my whole life trying to earn his approval. Even now, sometimes I catch myself thinking about what he would say about the choices I am making, and I hear his voice telling me I am weak, that I am throwing away everything he built." "You are not weak," Kylie said quietly. "It takes more strength to change than to stay the same." Sebastian looked at her, really looked at her, and Kylie felt something warm unfurl in her chest. "Thank you," he said. "I needed to hear that today." They talked for hours that night, long after they had finished eating. Sebastian told her about growing up with impossible expectations, about learning that love was transactional, about the slow realization that he had built a life he hated. Kylie shared stories about her father, about the financial struggles after he died, about choosing journalism because it felt like a way to fight back against systems that crushed people like her family. When they finally left the diner, it was past midnight. Sebastian insisted on walking Kylie to her subway station, and they stood at the top of the stairs, neither wanting to leave. "I enjoyed tonight," Sebastian said. "It has been a long time since I talked to someone who was not trying to get something from me." "I am still investigating you," Kylie reminded him. "Technically, I am trying to get information." "That is different. That is your job. I respect that." He hesitated, then added, "Would you want to do this again sometime? Just talk, no agenda." Kylie knew what she should say. She should maintain professional distance, keep him at arm's length. But she heard herself say, "Yes, I would like that." Over the next few months, dinner at the diner became a regular occurrence. Once a week, sometimes twice, Kylie and Sebastian would meet up and talk for hours. They discussed everything from politics to movies to their respective disasters in trying to maintain houseplants. Sebastian made Kylie laugh in ways she had not laughed in years, and she found herself watching the clock at work, counting down hours until their next meeting. She knew she was falling for him. It was a terrible idea on every level. Sebastian was her subject, her boss's boss in the company hierarchy, a former corporate raider with a mountain of baggage. But he was also brilliant and thoughtful and kind in quiet ways that most people never saw. He remembered details about her life, asked about her mother's health, sent articles he thought she would find interesting. When Kylie mentioned wanting to take a reporting trip to interview sources in Philadelphia, but not having the budget, Sebastian authorized the funding the next day without making it about him. "I cannot tell if you are bribing me or genuinely supporting journalism," Kylie teased him over dinner. "Cannot it be both?" Sebastian grinned. "Kidding. It is your story, your sources. The Chronicle should support that work. You know people are going to think you are playing favorites. Let them think what they want. Your track record speaks for itself." He grew more serious. "Besides, I have nothing to hide from you. If I did, you would find it." Kylie believed him. She had spent months investigating every aspect of Sebastian's business dealings, and everything checked out. He really had changed. The transformation was real. The story she eventually wrote reflected that truth. She detailed Sebastian's past ruthlessness, the damage Keller Capital had caused, but also documented the systematic changes over the past 3 years. She interviewed workers whose jobs had been saved, entrepreneurs whose businesses Sebastian had funded, former employees who confirmed the shift in company culture. She presented the facts and let readers draw their own conclusions. When the article published, Kylie braced for backlash. But the response was overwhelmingly positive, with other publications following up on the story. Sebastian called her the day it came out. "Thank you," he said simply, "for being fair, for telling the whole truth." "It is what I do," Kylie replied, but she felt warm all over. "I know. It is one of the many things I admire about you." Sebastian paused. "Actually, can we meet tonight? I want to talk to you about something." They met at the diner, their spot now, and Kylie could tell Sebastian was nervous. He kept fidgeting with his coffee cup, not quite meeting her eyes. "What is going on?" Kylie asked. "You are freaking me out." "I am trying to figure out how to say this without screwing it up," Sebastian admitted. He took a breath. "These past few months, getting to know you, have been the best part of my year, maybe the best part of several years. You make me want to keep being better, keep growing, keep changing. And I think I have been falling for you since that first night we sat here and talked for hours." Kylie's heart stuttered. "Sebastian, wait, let me finish." He finally met her eyes. "I know this is complicated. I know I am technically your employer, and I know my past makes me a risk. If you do not feel the same way, we can pretend I never said anything. But I had to tell you, because I cannot keep pretending that this is just friendship for me." Kylie reached across the table and took his hand. "I have been falling for you too," she said. "And it terrifies me because I did not plan for this. I did not plan for you." Sebastian's face transformed, relief and joy flooding his features. "So what do? We figure it out," Kylie said, carefully. "Because I am not giving up my job, and you are not going to influence my reporting. I would never ask you to. And we need to be transparent about this. No secret relationship. Agreed?" They talked through the logistics, the potential complications, the ways they could maintain professional boundaries while exploring whatever was developing between them. It felt very much like them, Kylie thought, to negotiate the terms of a relationship over diner coffee. When Sebastian walked her home that night, they stopped outside her apartment building. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, and Kylie answered by pulling him down to her. The kiss was everything and nothing like she expected. Gentle at first, then deeper, Sebastian's hand cupping her face like she was something precious. When they finally pulled apart, Kylie was breathless. "Worth the wait," Sebastian murmured, and Kylie laughed, kissing him again. Dating Sebastian was different from anything Kylie had experienced before. He was attentive without being overbearing, thoughtful in ways that showed he truly listened. For their first official date, he took her to a documentary screening about investigative journalism, followed by dinner at a tiny Ethiopian restaurant Kylie had mentioned wanting to try months ago. He never tried to impress her with his wealth, never flaunted what he could buy or where he could get them into. He seemed to genuinely enjoy simple things, like walking through bookstores or trying new coffee shops or sitting in her apartment while she cooked and he chopped vegetables. "I spent so many years using money as a weapon or a shield," Sebastian told her one evening. "It feels good to just be a person, to have someone who sees me, not my bank account." Kylie understood. She had worried that dating a billionaire would mean entering a world she did not belong in, all charity galas and social obligations. But Sebastian had no interest in that life either. He had started quietly divesting from the social circles he had once cultivated, focusing instead on the actual work of reforming Keller Capital and building something meaningful. "I am proud of you," Kylie said one night, curled up against him on her couch. They had just watched him deliver a speech at a labor union conference, something the old Sebastian would have considered corporate suicide. "I am trying," Sebastian said, kissing the top of her head. "Some days are easier than others." I still catch myself thinking in the old patterns, seeing opportunities for exploitation before I remember that is not who I am anymore. The fact that you catch yourself means it is working. They had been together for 4 months when Sebastian's past came back to haunt them. A former business partner, angry about Sebastian's new direction, leaked emails to a tabloid that made it look like Sebastian had bought into the Chronicle specifically to kill stories about Keller Capital. The emails were taken out of context, snippets of conversations twisted to suggest manipulation. Kylie found out when a reporter from a rival publication called her for comment. Her stomach dropped as she read through the leaked materials. She knew the full context, knew these emails were from early in Sebastian's transition when he was still figuring things out, but they looked damning. "I need to see Sebastian," Kylie told Patricia, who had also been fielding calls. "Now." She found him in the conference room with the legal team, his face ashen. When he saw her, something like relief crossed his features. "Kylie, thank God. I need you to know this is not what it looks like." "I know," Kylie said, "but we need to get ahead of this." They spent the next 12 hours crafting a response. Sebastian insisted on complete transparency, releasing not just the full email threads, but also detailed documentation of every decision he had made regarding the Chronicle. He held a press conference where he answered questions directly, admitting his initial instincts had been to protect himself, but that he had chosen differently. "I am not perfect," Sebastian said to a room full of skeptical journalists. "I am still learning how to operate with integrity instead of self-interest. Yes, there was a moment where I thought about using my position to influence coverage. And then I remembered why I bought into the Chronicle in the first place, and I chose not to. I will always choose not to. If that is not good enough, if people cannot accept that I am trying to be better, then so be it. But I will not go back to who I was." The coverage was mixed. Some outlets praised Sebastian's transparency while others remained skeptical. But the Chronicle's editorial independence was never actually questioned, because the record showed Sebastian had never interfered. If anything, he had funded expanded investigations and supported controversial reporting. Through it all, Kylie stood by him. Not publicly at first, they had agreed to keep their relationship private to avoid complicating the narrative, but in every way that mattered. She helped him craft statements, challenged him when his instincts veered toward defensiveness, reminded him why he had chosen this path. "I do not know what I would do without you," Sebastian said one night, exhausted after another day of crisis management. "You would be fine," Kylie assured him. "You are stronger than you think." "I am stronger with you." The scandal eventually blew over, and life returned to a new normal. Sebastian continued reforming Keller Capital, making decisions that prioritized people over pure profit. Kylie kept reporting, including a follow-up piece about the email leak that contextualized everything and earned praise for its fairness. They navigated the complications of their relationship with care, always maintaining clear boundaries between Sebastian's role at the Chronicle and Kylie's work as a reporter. 6 months after they started dating, Sebastian asked Kylie to move in with him. She said yes, but only after they had a long conversation about keeping her apartment as a backup, about ensuring she maintained financial independence, about all the practical considerations that mattered to her. "I love that you think about these things," Sebastian said. "I love that you never let me sweep you off your feet without considering the reality." "Someone has to keep you grounded," Kylie teased. Living together revealed new dimensions of Sebastian. Kylie discovered he was an early riser who made elaborate breakfasts, that he had a collection of terrible action movies he watched when stressed, that he talked to his houseplants in hopes of keeping them alive. He learned that Kylie needed silence to write, that she stress-cleaned when a story was not coming together, that she had nightmares sometimes about her father's death and just needed to be held. They learned each other's rhythms and rough edges, the way two people do when they build a life together. It was not always easy. They fought sometimes, usually about work-life balance or Sebastian's tendency to try fixing everything. But they always talked through it, always came back to each other with open hands and honest hearts. A year into their relationship, Kylie brought Sebastian home to meet her mother. She had been nervous, unsure how to explain that she was dating a reformed billionaire, but her mother surprised her. "You look happy," her mother said, watching Sebastian help with dishes. "Really happy. I have not seen you like this since before your father died." "I am happy," Kylie admitted. "He is good to me, Mom. He is a good man. I can see that." Her mother squeezed her hand. "Your father would approve." That night, lying in bed in Kylie's childhood room with Sebastian in the guest room down the hall to maintain propriety under her mother's roof, Kylie realized something had shifted. She had stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop, stopped bracing for Sebastian to revert to his old self. He really had changed. The transformation was permanent. At work, Sebastian continued to prove himself. He honored his initial promise and did not exercise his option to buy the remaining Chronicle shares, instead converting his stake to a trust that would preserve the paper's editorial independence in perpetuity. He funded investigations that exposed corruption in industries where Keller Capital had investments, taking financial hits to support ethical journalism. "You are burning money to support a newspaper," one board member complained during a meeting Kylie heard about secondhand. "This is not sustainable." "Then we will figure out how to make it sustainable," Sebastian had replied. "The Chronicle is not going anywhere, not on my watch." The Chronicle staff, once deeply suspicious of Sebastian, gradually accepted him. It helped that he never acted like an owner, never threw his weight around or demanded special treatment. He was just Sebastian, the guy who made coffee runs and asked thoughtful questions and clearly loved one of their own. "You know we all talk about you two, right?" Marcus from sports told Kylie one day. "It is like watching a romance novel in real time. Reformed bad boy billionaire falls for crusading journalist. We are all rooting for you." Kylie laughed, embarrassed but pleased. "It is not that dramatic." "It absolutely is. Own it." 2 years into their relationship, Sebastian took Kylie on a trip to Ohio. She did not understand why until they pulled up to a community center in a town she recognized from her Pemberton Industries reporting. "What are we doing here?" Kylie asked. "Something I should have done a long time ago," Sebastian said. "Something I need you with me for." Inside, a group of former Pemberton workers had gathered. Sebastian had arranged for Keller Capital to establish a fund that would restore their lost pensions, along with scholarships for their children and job training programs. He spent hours that day shaking hands, apologizing, listening to people's stories about how the company's collapse had affected them. "This does not fix everything," Sebastian told the group, "but it is a start. And I wanted you to know that I take full responsibility for what happened. I cannot undo the past, but I can try to make the future better." Watching him, Kylie felt overwhelming love. This was who Sebastian had become, someone who owned his mistakes and worked to repair the damage. The bad boy had become a good man, and she had been lucky enough to witness the transformation. That evening, as they drove back to the hotel, Sebastian was quiet. "Thank you for coming with me today," he finally said. "I do not think I could have done that alone." "Yes, you could have," Kylie said, "but I am glad I was there." "I want you with me for everything," Sebastian said. He pulled the car over, turning to face her. Kylie, I know we have not talked about this explicitly, but I need you to know that I am in this for the long term. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up next to you when we are both old and gray. I want to have kids with you if you want kids, or travel the world if that is what you want instead. I just want you, in whatever form our life together takes. Kylie's eyes filled with tears. I want that too, all of it with you. Sebastian kissed her, and Kylie thought about how unlikely this all was, how she had watched him walk into the Chronicle that first day and seen an enemy, a threat to everything she cared about. How she had investigated him, challenged him, tried to figure out his angle. How slowly, inexplicably, she had fallen in love with the person he was becoming. 6 months later, Sebastian proposed on the steps of the Chronicle building, the place where their story really started. He had arranged for photographers to capture the moment, not for publicity, but because he knew Kylie would want to remember it. She said yes before he even finished asking, laughing and crying at the same time. They got married a year later in a small ceremony attended by family and close friends. Kylie's mother cried through the whole thing, and Sebastian's former assistant, who had become one of his closest confidantes during his transformation, gave a toast about watching him become the person he was meant to be. To Kylie, the assistant said, raising her glass, for seeing who he could be and holding him accountable to that vision. And to Sebastian, Marcus added, having claimed best man duties through sheer persistence, for proving that people really can change. Kylie and Sebastian bought a house together, something modest by billionaire standards but perfect for them, with a big kitchen and a home office where Kylie could write and space for all the houseplants Sebastian insisted on trying to keep alive. They talked about kids, agreeing to wait a few years while Kylie pursued some ambitious reporting projects she had been planning. Sebastian continued running Keller Capital with a focus on ethical investing and repairing past harm. He became known in business circles as someone who had chosen conscience over pure profit, and while some people thought he was naive, others started following his lead. Slowly, he built a reputation as someone trying to prove that capitalism could be reformed from the inside, one decision at a time. Kylie kept working at the Chronicle, eventually becoming managing editor. She never stopped holding powerful people accountable, including her husband when warranted. Sebastian never asked her to go easy on him or his interests, and she never did. It was the foundation of their relationship, that mutual respect for each other's integrity. 3 years into their marriage, Kylie got pregnant. She told Sebastian over breakfast, sliding the positive test across the table while he poured coffee. Really? Sebastian's voice cracked with emotion. We are having a baby. We are having a baby. Sebastian came around the table and pulled her into his arms, and Kylie felt his tears against her neck. I am going to be a better father than mine was, he whispered. I promise you that. I know you will, Kylie said. You are already better than you think. Their daughter was born on a spring morning, tiny and perfect with Sebastian's dark hair and Kylie's eyes. They named her Claire, after Kylie's father. Sebastian cried when he held her for the first time, this man who had once prided himself on ruthlessness, completely undone by love. She is so small, he said, awed. How is she so small? All babies are small, Sebastian. Not like this. She is perfect. She is the most perfect thing I have ever seen. Watching Sebastian with Claire, Kylie marveled at how far they had both come. She thought about that first day in the newsroom, the fear and suspicion she had felt. She thought about all the late-night conversations at the diner, the slow building of trust, the moment she had realized she was falling in love despite every reason not to. She thought about watching Sebastian transform himself through sheer force of will and determination to be better than his past. He had been the bad boy, the corporate raider, the man everyone warned her about. And somehow he had become her good man, the person she trusted more than anyone, the father of her child, her partner in everything. "What are you thinking about?" Sebastian asked, catching her staring. "Just how lucky I am," Kylie said. "How lucky we are. I am the lucky one." Sebastian shifted Claire to one arm and reached for Kylie's hand. "You gave me a reason to change. You held me accountable. You loved me when I was still figuring out who I wanted to be." "You did the work yourself," Kylie reminded him. "I just witnessed it." "You did more than witness. You believed in me. That made all the difference." They sat together in the hospital room, their daughter sleeping peacefully, the afternoon light filtering through the windows. Kylie thought about her father, wished he could have met Sebastian, could have seen his grandson-in-law become the kind of man who restored pensions and funded journalism, and cried while holding his newborn daughter. She thought he would have liked Sebastian, would have understood what Kylie saw in him. 2 years later, they had a son, and Sebastian insisted on naming him after Kylie's father. Their house filled with the chaos of young children, with toys scattered across the living room and fingerprints on every surface. Sebastian, who had once run billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, learned to function on broken sleep and cheerfully changed diapers at 3 in the morning. "This is harder than corporate restructuring," he joked one exhausted evening, rocking their son back to sleep. "But better," Kylie said. "So much better." Kylie cut back her hours at the Chronicle to balance motherhood with reporting, and Sebastian reorganized his work schedule to be present for bedtimes and school events. They built a life that looked nothing like either of them had imagined, and it was better for being unexpected. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Sebastian surprised Kylie with a trip back to the diner where they had first opened up to each other. They sat in the same corner booth, and Kylie was struck by how much had changed. "Remember that first night?" Sebastian asked. "I was so nervous. I had no idea how to talk to you without it being about business." "You managed," Kylie said. "You told me about your father. I wanted you to understand. I wanted you to see that I was trying." Sebastian took her hand. "I still want that every day. I want you to see me trying to call me out when I fall short, to remind me who I want to be." "You do not need me for that anymore," Kylie said. "You have become exactly who you wanted to be." "Maybe, but I still need you." He squeezed her hand. "Always will." They talked late into the night like they had all those years ago, and Kylie felt grateful for every choice that had led them here. For the Chronicle hiring her, for Sebastian buying into the paper, for her decision to investigate him honestly, for his courage in changing. For every moment that had built toward this life they shared. When they finally left the diner, walking hand in hand through the city streets, Kylie thought about the story she had written about Sebastian years ago. The one about his transformation, about whether people could really change. She had presented the facts and let readers decide for themselves, but she knew now what the answer was. People could change if they wanted it badly enough and worked at it every single day. Sebastian had proven that, over and over again. He had been the bad boy everyone warned her about. The corporate raider, the ruthless billionaire, the man who destroyed companies without a second thought. And through determination and hard work and genuine desire to be better, he had become her good man. Her partner, her love, the father of her children, the person she trusted more than anyone in the world. Kylie had watched Sebastian transform, not knowing at first that the bad boy would become her good man. But somewhere along the way, between coffee runs and late-night conversations and brave choices, she had fallen in love with the person he was becoming. And then she had watched him become exactly that, and somehow they had built this beautiful, complicated, perfect life together. "What are you smiling about?" Sebastian asked, catching her expression. "Just thinking about how this all started," Kylie said. "How unlikely it was." "Best thing that ever happened to me," Sebastian said. "You walking into the Chronicle that day." "I think you walked into the Chronicle, actually." "Semantics," he grinned, pulling her closer. "Point is, I found you or you found me. Either way, I am keeping you." "Good," Kylie said, "because I am keeping you too." They walked home through the city that had brought them together. Two people who had found each other against all odds and built something lasting. The bad boy had become a good man, and the journalist who had investigated him had become his wife, his partner, his love. And if you had told Kylie that first day, watching Sebastian Keller stride through the newsroom like he owned it, that she would fall in love with him, she would have laughed in disbelief. But life surprised you sometimes. People surprised you. And Sebastian Keller had surprised her most of all, by choosing to become someone worthy of her love, and then maintaining that choice every single day years later, when their children asked how they met. Kylie and Sebastian would look at each other and smile. "I was investigating him," Kylie would say. "She thought I was a villain," Sebastian would add. "You kind of were," Kylie would tease. "Fair point." Sebastian would grin. "But your mother saw something worth saving. Did you save him?" Their daughter would ask, eyes wide. "No," Kylie would say firmly. "He saved himself. I just watched it happen." And that was the truth. Kylie had witnessed Sebastian's transformation, had investigated it, documented it, fallen in love through it. But the work had been his. The choice to change had been his. The daily effort to be better had been his. She had just been lucky enough to watch the bad boy become a good man, and even luckier that he had chosen to build his life with her. On their 10th anniversary, Sebastian made a donation in Kylie's name to the Chronicle, funding a new investigative journalism fellowship for young reporters. The fellowship would focus on holding powerful institutions accountable, exactly the kind of reporting Kylie had built her career on. "Thank you," she said, reading the announcement. "This is perfect." "I wanted to honor what you do," Sebastian said, "the work that changed my life. The work or the person doing it, both." He pulled her close. "Always both." They renewed their vows that year, surrounded by family and friends and colleagues who had watched their unlikely romance unfold. Marcus gave another toast, this one about how everyone at the Chronicle had taken bets on whether Kylie and Sebastian would make it, and he had won a substantial pot by believing in them from the start. "To love that transforms," Marcus said, raising his glass. "To second chances and hard work, and two people who proved that even the most unlikely love stories can have happy endings. To finding each other," Sebastian added, looking only at Kylie. "To building something real." "To us," Kylie said, and they drank to that, to them, to the life they had built from suspicion and investigation and late-night conversations. To the bad boy who became a good man and the journalist who watched it happen, fell in love, and chose to build a life with him anyway. Their story was not the one Kylie had expected to live, but it was better, richer, more real than anything she could have imagined that first day. And as she stood there with Sebastian's arm around her, their children playing nearby, surrounded by everyone who mattered, Kylie felt grateful for every unexpected turn that had led them here. She had watched Sebastian transform, investigated him, challenged him, and eventually loved him. And he had proven, every single day, that people could change, that bad boys could become good men, that second chances were real if you were willing to do the work. And in the end, that was the story Kylie would remember. Not the corporate raider or the ruthless billionaire, but the man who chose to be better. The man who became her partner, her love, her home. Sebastian Keller, the bad boy who became her good man. And Kylie Thompson, the journalist who witnessed the transformation and fell in love with the person he became. Together, they built a life neither had expected but both had needed. And if that was not a happy ending, Kylie did not know what was.